Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and explore the Navajo Emergence Story. Long before cities were ever built, before kingdoms rose and fell, and definitely way before any written history, there was this incredibly ancient narrative about humanity's journey. And it's not just your standard how things came to be origin story. No, it's this profound, epic account of traveling through multiple, totally distinct worlds, each with its own unique set of challenges, before finally arriving right here in the present world we live in today. Now, you might be wondering, is this simply a myth? Well, before we just brush this aside and write it off as merely mythology or a simple folktale, we really need to pause and ask a much deeper question. Does this ancient story actually serve as a vital, deeply encoded manual for survival? Like, could it actually be a masterclass in maintaining balance and a relationship with the natural world around us? As we unpack the whole thing today, I really think you'll find the answer is a resounding yes. But right up front, it's incredibly important to respectfully acknowledge the cultural weight of what we're talking about here. This is a highly sacred tradition of the Navajo, who refer to themselves as the Diné. It is literally one of the most respected cultural traditions in all of North America. And since different families and ceremonial traditions might actually recount it with slight variations, today we're just going to look at a common, respectful summary of this truly profound piece of oral history. All right, Section 1, the early worlds. The first thing to understand is that this journey was not a lateral move, just walking across a map. It was an upward, vertical ascent. They moved from the first world up to the second, then the third, all the way up to the fourth world, which is our present reality. And every single step up was driven by this absolute need for a fresh start. So let's look at the starting point, the first world, which is often called the Black World. According to tradition, this was a small, tight, and frankly, incredibly crowded place. It was inhabited by spiritual beings, sacred creatures, and insects. And hey, at first, things were good. There was harmony. But over time, that initial harmony completely collapsed into conflict and intense disorder. Basically, things got so bad that the holy people, who are these powerful spiritual beings responsible for maintaining balance, well, they had to step in. They intervened and told the inhabitants that life just couldn't continue there. They literally had to pack up and leave. Trusting the holy people, the inhabitants were given a pretty incredible escape route. A special giant reed began to grow upward, literally piercing through the boundaries of their crowded world to create a pathway into a brand new one. The people then climbed upward through this giant reed one by one. I mean, what a powerful metaphor, right? It's not just about physical travel. It's really about spiritual elevation. It's about trusting in higher guidance and leaving your past mistakes entirely behind you to seek out a new beginning. After that monumental climb, they arrived in the second world, the blue world. And right off the bat, things looked super promising. It was a much larger, richer land than the first, and it was filled with entirely different animals. For a brief moment, the travelers actually believed they'd finally found lasting peace. But you know how it goes. Human nature, or, well, the nature of these beings, got the better of them. The peace just didn't last. Arguments, deep jealousy, and a lot of disrespect slowly crept back in, which ultimately destroyed the harmony all over again. The holy people warned them the balance was completely broken, and so they were forced into yet another upward climb. The crucial point here is this repeating psychological and societal loop. Check it out. We start with initial harmony, right? But that inevitably gives way to growing conflict, which then results in a total loss of balance. And when that balance is totally gone, the only solution left is an upward escape, climbing the reed just to try again. It really highlights that peace isn't some permanent, static state. It requires constant, active maintenance. And without that, the whole system just collapses. Moving right along to Section 2, the Great Flood. So now we find ourselves in the third world, often referred to as the Yellow World. Visually, in the story, this place was incredibly beautiful and completely teeming with life. However, this world ended up facing its own unique tragedy. And this time, it wasn't just minor arguments or jealousy. Many traditions speak of serious, deep moral mistakes made by the beings living there, actions that severely upset the natural order of things. And because that natural balance completely collapsed, disaster followed fast. A great flood began to cover the land. The waters just kept rising higher and higher every single day until escape seemed virtually impossible. Once again, the holy people instructed everyone to climb a newly grown giant reed stretching toward the sky. So as the dark floodwaters swallowed the third world right below them, the travelers continued their upward ascent. But here's the kicker. This time, they were carrying the incredibly heavy, accumulated lessons of all the worlds they had been forced to leave behind. Which brings us to Section 3, entering the fourth world. At long last, they emerged into the fourth world. This is the present world, the very one the Navajo believe we are all living in today. And it was vastly different from the others. It was wide open, breathtakingly beautiful, and just full of endless possibility, complete with these massive horizons of mountains, flowing rivers, and fertile valleys. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. Entering this world wasn't a retirement. It wasn't the end of the journey at all. Rather, it was the true beginning of human responsibility. This is where the holy people became active teachers, directly explaining to the Diné exactly how to live properly, so they wouldn't just end up destroying this world like they did the last three. To really ground them in this new world, the holy people established 4 sacred mountains. Now, these weren't just standard geographical landmarks or random coordinates on a map. No, they were the defining spiritual boundaries and the ultimate protection for the traditional Diné homeland. They provided a deep sense of identity. It was within these very specific, sacred boundaries that the people learned to farm, raise their families, and actually put all those hard-learned lessons from the previous worlds into practice. Let's transition into Section 4, the meaning of harmony. In the Navajo tradition, the definition of harmony is way, way deeper than simply avoiding a fight with your neighbor. It is a highly active, continuous, and super intentional respect. It means respecting nature, respecting your family, respecting the wider community, and having a profound respect for the spiritual world. Basically, nothing exists without a purpose. Absolutely everything is connected, and humans are entirely expected to live respectfully alongside all other living things. But the Diné also acknowledge a very realistic, practical truth. Humans are fallible. We make mistakes, right? So because balance is inevitably going to be lost from time to time, they were taught specific, incredibly powerful ceremonies. These ceremonies are performed whenever life becomes unbalanced. It's essentially a system to ensure that health, happiness, and peace can be properly and effectively restored to both the individual and the community as a whole. And finally, Section 5, Ancient Wisdom, Modern World. There's a really stark contrast in how this story is perceived today, where an outsider might just glance at this and see a piece of primitive mythology, often filtering it through a historical lens of power and conquest. The Diné view it entirely differently. For them, this is a strict, practical manual for life. It's a comprehensive framework that details our responsibilities, proves that our actions have real, sometimes catastrophic consequences, and teaches that our ultimate survival doesn't depend on who has the biggest weapons, but rather on who has the most wisdom and the most balance. And honestly, these timeless lessons are speaking directly to us right now. As our modern world continually struggles with massive environmental damage, huge societal imbalances, and constant global conflict, well, the story acts as a mirror. It's a huge reminder that we simply cannot afford to repeat the old mistakes from the previous worlds. Every single generation inherits not just the physical beauty of the earth, but the immense, heavy responsibility to protect it. The story plainly warns us, greed and conflict will always, always destroy harmony. The tradition teaches us a beautiful quote. It is about becoming better with every step, learning from every world we pass through, and leaving the world more balanced than we found it. That right there is the ultimate lesson of the emergence story. It's not about achieving ultimate power. It's not about gaining unimaginable wealth. It's about the journey itself becoming the teacher. It's about carrying forward ancient wisdom so that life can genuinely, sustainably flourish. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to really chew on. It's something we should all be asking ourselves. As you go about your daily life, navigating your own world and making decisions big and small, are your actions actually helping to restore harmony? Or are we collectively just blindly repeating the exact same mistakes of the worlds that came before us? Think about how you can apply this ancient wisdom today to leave your part of the world just a little more balanced than you found it. Thank you